Welcome to 2 hours ago.
Have we met before?
I feel like the reverse Flash. Look at this over again. What's your first question? Absolutely.
Do it.
How challenging is this? Was she going to ask a question?
I think she should get first crack.
Okay. What do you think fans would be like most excited about this
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I don't know. I think what's great about these shows is that people watch them for different reasons, and there are some people who are going to come because they want to see the visual effects. They want to see her flying, catching planes, which is really cool. And I think some people are going to come because it's a show about sisters, and two sisters who fight and bicker, but they still love each other. And that's not something that you see a lot on TV right now. And I think some people are going to come because it's just a fun, cool show. It's going to be a great, fun hour that a family can watch together, which we also think is really important.
I love Superman and the world of Superman, all the deep mythology, the family, all the different characters. How deep is the show going to go into that mythology?
I mean, pretty deep. I mean, obviously the show starts on Krypton.
Sure.
I think one of the most interesting things about Kara as opposed to Clark is that, for all practical purposes, Clark is from Kansas. He was born on Krypton, and obviously he brings his powers with him. But, from the time he was a baby, he grew up here. Jonathan and Martha Kent are his parents. And Jor-El and Mara are more of an abstract. But for Kara lived on Krypton until she was 13 years old. She grew up on this alien planet with alien things. She grew up on a planet where she knew that they weren't alone in the universe, that from her perspective, that there were millions of planets full of life, and then all of a sudden all that was taken away from her. Like her parents died, her friends, her home, and her world. So, we're able to talk about Krypton in the present tense in a way because she remembers all the different guilds, which are mentioned throughout, the second episode, and we're able to have flashbacks in the show to her time on Krypton. So we get to see a little bit more Krypton, but we also get to see it like, most times you see it, it's the last day of its existence. You get to see it when it was like a normal place and it was thriving, and a lot of Kara's experiences there help influence, sometimes she remembers the clue that she needs to solve a case here on Earth, and other times it's just getting to understand her background and why she is who she is.
Very cool.
How do you think the red and blue elephant is a movie?
You're not saying I'm fat, are you?
No. Am I going to say you're fat? No. The Superman element, you brought up the Superman element, but it's...
We actually, one of our early episodes kind of addresses why he's not on the show every week. It was really Greg from the beginning said, if we're going to do a show about Supergirl, it has to be in the world that Superman exists. And one of the sort of themes of the show is that, like, for everybody in our lives, like, there's always that person who's doing it better than you are. It's your boss, it's your friend, your brother. There's always that person that you compare yourself to. And am I good enough? And they're having success doing it their way. Can I have success doing it my way? So we sort of, in a way, we treat the idea of Superman as the sort of like, that's the perfect way to do it. And that's the way Kara sees it, that he's sort of doing it the perfect way. And she's learning that, like, that's not how she wants to do it. And that in some ways she can be more successful than him because she has allies, she has friends, she has his relationships, she has a relationship with her sister, which are, all things that the Superman that we've sort of created is a bit more of a loner.
Will the flashbacks be a huge part as an Arrow, or will they be only used like a couple of times?
I think it'll be more like Flash. Like I think that like sometimes there'll be flashbacks to Midvale when we see her, Kara and Alex growing up living with Helen Slater and Dean Cain. So it's not going to be in every episode, 5-beat story the way the islands in Hong Kong have been on Arrow. It'll be more like Flash, where some episodes will have them, and some episodes will have like one flashback to Krypton. It won't necessarily be a whole story, and maybe down the road we can have the flashback version of like when we do the all flashback episode on Arrow. But that's in success.
What do you think is the one unique quality that Supergirl brings to the table compared to the Flash or Arrow?
I think part of it is that she's a woman, and I think that what's great about Kara is that she doesn't have to give up being a woman to be a hero. I think a lot of times when you see female heroes, they've been stripped of their femininity. It's like, oh, she's badass. But, Kara's badass, but she can still be a girl. And what we're saying is being a girl isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can have feelings, you can be multi-layered, and then some of it I think is just, without making grand statements about, it's just about her just doing it by example, that you see that she's just every bit as capable as any of these guys.
That's really awesome.
Somebody's got a question.
Since the actors don't know, is there something coming up in the first part of the season that you really want to point the fans to? That you really want them to, maybe an episode or a key development?
Oh, I have so many things to tell you.
Just start going and somebody will tell you to stop.
As always, I think that we're gonna, there are some sort of classic Superman villains that we're gonna have on the show that you'll like, just as we do on any of the shows that we work on, they'll go through the filter of how we interpret them. Okay. There are some villains that, as far as we know, we've never really seen portrayed in live action before, so we're really excited about that. And then there's some parts of the Superman mythology that we're getting to explore. Some of them have been explored before, that we're getting to explore in our way. She can't say anything. I want to say things. You guys are next year. You're gonna be like, when I saw episode 7 and they did that thing, you knew that and you didn't tell me.
Exactly.
Real quick, Donner's influence. I mean, because it felt like you're watching the pilot in a very good way. It felt like a modern version of Richard Donner taking it.
Yeah, and honestly, and I say this with zero disrespect to any iteration of Superman that came after, the Donner, but for us, that was the one that really touched us as children. And there is something about it, like being part of your DNA. And that was always sort of the star that we were guided by, because there was a truth to the Donner version and a reality and ironically a groundedness, and that we felt very strongly that we wanted to capture. And truthfully, that wasn't really what was out there right now in the comic book in the comic book world. That sort of like unabashed hope and brightness and light, and that was very important to us. And it was funny, Peter Roth, who runs Warner Brothers Television, after he saw the pilot, he said, Melissa is the closest I've seen to Christopher, the closest feeling I've gotten to see with anybody with that S that I've gotten since Christopher Reeve, and we really feel that too.
The John Williams theme in the room. Throw it in.
Thank you.
Ready for
Oh, I'm good.
Thank you so much.
I meant, what else?
The John Williams thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, there's actually Blake Neely, who's our composer, actually is friends with John Williams, and there's a
They hang out, they jam, right?
when Superman finds Kara in the pod, it's not the theme, but there's like an echo of it that he put in there, which we thought was which Blake was really excited about.
Any guest stars coming up, or guest stars you'd like to have on the show?
Well, I think like with Flash and Arrow, we would love to have, people who've been associated with the Superman, universe. But, for us, we always feel like we're just the lucky jerks who get to hold the steering wheel for this leg of the journey, and we always feel a sense of obligation and honor to have all the people who help make it what it is. So, I think, in that sense, we'll probably do that. And we're going to announce a big name joining the show tonight.
Nice.
Laura Vandervoort, that's been in the news.
Well, I actually met Laura at the Saturn Awards, and she was so sweet when she tweeted about the show, which I thought was so nice when it was first announced, and Melissa announced, and she said good luck, and we started a conversation, and there's no definitive plans right now, but having Laura on is exactly the kind of thing that makes us happy,
Elephant in the room. What about crossovers with Flash and Arrow?
Those decisions are above my pay grade. I think that there's always a danger when you start to expand those things that they could collapse in on themselves, and much to our chops and and fulfilling our hopes, Arrow and Flash actually helped each other and made each other stronger. And now we're adding Legends to that. I'm not sure right now there's any like big desire on our part to sort of mix it all, even if A, we could do it, we were allowed to do it, or B, even if it was like a directive. So, but what's great about Supergirl is that it's going to be one of our shows, and just like on Flash we had Firestorm, and on Arrow we had Flash, Supergirl is going to have other DC Comics heroes come on to the show. So it'll start to feel like its own expanded universe, just in the same way that the other shows do.
Is there a danger of too many shows? I mean, it's very rapid succession. We've gone from Arrow to Flash to Supergirl to Legends of Tomorrow.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the audience will tell us.
Yeah.
I only know from. I mean, for us, we didn't have any interest in sort of doing the same show again. And when we were initially talking about doing another spin-off, they all felt small. For when we were talking about doing a spin-off of Flash and Arrow, and it wasn't until we sort of said, the only thing that we haven't really done is a team, and doing something that's as grounded as Flash is, doing something completely ungrounded, and doing something that's just like bonkers and fun and loud and crazy and brash and funny. And so for us, Legends, even though it's part of that universe, it doesn't feel like the same show. And with Supergirl, Supergirl feels, because because it's set, we filmed in Los Angeles, it doesn't feel like those other shows, which are all shot in Vancouver.
Any possibility of tying it in with Smallville?
No, I don't think we would ever suggest that it's the same universe, because they had a Kara, they had a Supergirl on that show, but certainly we're open to actors from that time. In that show.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.